Welcome to episode 6 of the Principal at Home channel. What you allow, you endorse. This episode today can be a little uncomfortable because we're talking about accountability and holding everyone to a very high standard and high expectations. But I want to start with this question. Have you ever let something slide because you didn't think it was a big deal? Have you allowed people to show up late to work? Have you allowed people to show up late to team meetings? Have you allowed your kids to roll their eyes and have bad body language when you ask them to do something at home? You and your spouse, when you have a hard conversation, do you walk away from the conversation and leave that conversation? So when I say all those things there, what you're allowing, you are endorsing. So if you allow those small behaviors to go unchecked, you're basically saying that's the norm and it's okay for those things to happen. You know, culture does not fall apart overnight. Culture falls apart in those small unchecked behaviors that take place over time. So as leaders, it's so important that we don't remain silent, because if we consistently remain silent on those behaviors, we're consistently affirming it and saying it's okay. So some things that come to my mind when I think about all those things I just mentioned, I go back to my college basketball days playing college basketball for Coach Acuff at UAH. And this is something small, but again, it's a small unchecked behavior. We ran the Princeton offense in college, a very complex system. But it didn't matter what system you ran. If you did not sprint, if you did not cut hard, if you did not go 100% in every cut, every back cut within that offense, anybody could guard you. But one thing Coach Acuff always held us to on a very high standard within the offense is sprinting on every single cut, on every back cut, sprint from point A to point B. That's just one thing I'll never forget. It was a very small detail, but that detail was so important in us being very successful within the offense we ran at UAH. And now kind of going from that to my work, where in the leadership position as a principal, some things that I've had to deal with and talk through with employees. If I've noticed someone is showing up late to work, I've had to have those conversations with that individual. You can't let those things go. And I'm going to come back to how I believe you have those conversations in just a minute. Also, something I've dealt with is an employee who has a negative attitude at times, and it is starting to affect other coworkers as far as how that employee is talking to other coworkers, how that employee is talking to other students at times. And a lot of times I feel like some people may not even realize what they're doing until they are called out on it. But you got to call them out in the right way. And I'll get to that in just a minute. And then let's talk about our home life with our family and our kids and our spouse. Let's start with our kids. And man, I'm talking to myself right here with Caroline. You know, you get home from work, you're tired, you ask your kids to do something, and maybe they respond in a negative way. Maybe they roll their eyes, maybe they huff and puff, maybe they get bad body language. Do you allow those things to happen because you're just tired and you don't want to deal with it? The problem with that is, as you continue to allow those things to take place, you're saying it's okay. You're saying that's the norm. And that's not okay. Our kids have got to be taught at home that when you're asked to do something, you've got to go do it. And then let's look at your spouse in those conversations. And we all have difficult, hard conversations at times within our marriage. But are you the one that walks away from the conversation? Are you the one that shuts down and you just try to leave the conversation and hope over time it just will fix itself? Well, guess what? Silence creates even more of a toxic relationship in any area of life. You can't just walk away and be silent. Again, that's what I believe is you're endorsing it. You're allowing it, so you're endorsing it. So you're saying it's okay to leave the conversation, leave the issue still there that needs to be worked through. So one thing I do want to say is this: when I talk about how to have those conversations with the people you work with and even the people you live with, Truth in love builds trust. So first thing, you have to have a strong relationship with the individual before you have those constructive conversations. That's why I believe you got to start with your foundation of how you treat people from the beginning, and you've got to build on that. You've got to have a positive culture, a positive relationship with people you work with. It makes it, if you don't, it makes those conversations even more challenging, even more difficult to get to where you need to get to in those conversations, to get the point across. I also believe in this. You should never embarrass anybody in front of others. Never. If there is something that needs to be corrected, it should be behind closed doors, especially when you're dealing with an adult. Man, we're adults. We should be able to sit down and have a conversation and talk through a situation. This should always take place behind closed doors. It should never be out in front of others where you are embarrassing them. You just don't want to put any individual in that type of spotlight, in that type of situation, because at the end of the day, it brings a lot of negativity to that situation you're working through. So as we get ready to close here, I think a lot of times we struggle with these conversations because we don't want people to think we're against them. We want everybody to feel like we all just, everybody's great. And we let things go because you don't want to deal with it. You don't want them to think you're against them. But let me say this very clearly. Correction is not rejection. In fact, it's one of the most loving things a leader can do is by correcting others, but correct them the right way. And I think about, man, there's a lot you could apply to this as a coach with your team. Do you let things slide? Do you overlook things because you're tired of, you don't want to deal with this and all the pieces that come together? You've got to be detail oriented as a coach. You got to hold your team accountable in all facets, in all areas of the game, whatever game it may be. So again, I hope today's lesson has been challenging, has been encouraging. Don't let the small unchecked behaviors go unnoticed. Don't let that become the norm. You've got to handle those conversations. So my challenge is this week, don't try to solve it all at one time. Think about one behavior, one action that maybe you've been letting slide at work, at home with your kid or your spouse, and focus on that one action this week. Don't try to solve all the issues right now, but let's focus on one thing this week and take a week by week approach. And as you do that, hopefully you'll see a difference in the importance of not letting these unchecked behaviors occur over time. Because remember, what you allow, you endorse. Thank you for tuning in to episode 6. I continue to put out weekly episodes every Sunday afternoon. Also, go check out my new website, leadfullcircle.net. Continue to like, subscribe, and comment, and let's have a great week. And don't allow those unchecked behaviors to go. They will become a norm. Remember, what you allow, you endorse. Let's have a great week.